March 29th, 10:12 a.m., prison yard. Here we are again. Let's hope we can find something this time that will finally reveal the truth behind it all. Although, that might be easier said than done.
There's nothing left to investigate.
Judge Gavel's deduction yesterday.
There is another possibility, one you seem to have overlooked. The well in the yard. Could a body not have entered the tunnel from there? In summary, the body must have been thrown down the well and moved to the workshop. At some point during the show, tell me, who else could have done that but Mr. Saint?
Had Knight's body really been thrown down the well? The answer to that question will surely show us the way forward. But before we begin, I should tidy up my organizer a little. Unnecessary evidence removed. Remaining evidence has been rearranged.
Let's see here. Huh? There's a cover on it.
A dried up well slap bang in the middle of a prison? Figures it'd be locked.
Well, luckily I'm a master lockpicker. Want me to do my stuff?
I think not. We'll do this investigation by the book.
Come on, don't be such a stick in the mud.
Whoa. What is it, Kay?
The lock's broken. And from the looks of it, it's been broken for a long time.
If that's the case, then anyone could have thrown Knight's body down the well. Judge Gavel's theory was that Mr. Saint carried out the murder here in the yard. And then, during the performance, he threw the body down the well. What are you thinking, Mazzarino? Plausible or no?
Oh, why don't we see if Missile can help us out again? He'll be able to tell us if Mr. Knight's body was here and which way it went.
Good idea. I'll call Detective Gumshoe. Gumshoe speaking. Detective, I need your assistance. Come to the prison yard and bring Missile with you. You bet, sir. Gumshoe's 7 secret weapons to the rescue again, huh? I'm fairly sure Missile belongs to the precinct. I'd also like you to bring one of our witnesses. Call the Berry Big Circus and ask Miss Regina Berry to come down here with you. Yes, sir. I'll be there before you know it.
So, what shall we do while we're waiting for Yummy? How about a quick game of hide and seek?
Fun idea, kiddo, but where exactly will we hide? He's not seriously considering. Your game can wait, Kay. We need to call on one of your more practical skills. I think you know the one.
Ooh, you bet I do. One crime scene recreation coming right up.
Say what now?
Let me show you. Introducing a great thief's greatest secret weapon, Little Thief.
Whoa! Screens appearing from thin air? This is some next level tech, little sis. Wanna talk me through the deets? What are you doing now?
I'm inputting everything we need for the simulation.
Allow me to explain. This is Mr. Thief. It's a device that can recreate crime scenes at specific moments in time based on the data you feed it.
How about I start us off with a recreation of what the yard looked like yesterday?
Good idea. That was when they were in the middle of tearing down the stage. We didn't pay much attention to the well then. Who knows? We may have overlooked something.
Leave it to me. I'll use the photo I took. Beepity beep boop beep. That's all the data. Just gotta pump the projection power to max and... Dark skies of evening. When no other bird dares take wing, one alone remains all-seeing. Now witness the true power of a real modern-day Robin Hood!
Yipes! What is this?
It's a recreation of how things were yesterday, mile on the date I gave Little Thief. This gadget was a tool used by the original Yatagarasu, but they used it to plan robberies.
Well, there's no harm in using it for something on the right side of the law now.
Oh, but keep in mind that it can only recreate what you tell it to. It can't simulate things it doesn't have data for, and if the data itself contains mistakes, then you'll wind up with those same mistakes in the recreation too. But this particular recreation is based on Kay's photo, so we shouldn't run into any problems.
That's enough preamble. Shall we get started?
Begin investigation. Don't forget, you can examine stuff in the recreation just like in real life. You can also present evidence to try and clear up any inconsistencies you find.
Of course. Thank you for the reminder. Now let's take a look at that well. We should examine this area carefully. It may just hold the clue we need. It's a metal weight of some kind. Looks like it weighs... the projection makes it a little tricky to read. You remember how heavy it was, Kay?
Sure, it was 30 pounds. What does anyone need such a heavy weight for anyway?
It doesn't seem related to the circus show at any rate. What are a bunch of pulleys doing here? They don't seem to be well pulleys for lifting buckets. There's a sturdy-looking hemp rope lying on the ground.
Kinda reminds me of the ropes we used for playing tug-of-war in school.
The answer is no, Kay.
What? I didn't even say anything. Yet.
I see it also has a metal stake attached to one end.
Oh yeah, it looks like something used to put up a tent.
But there was no tent, was there? In which case, what was it used for? It looks like this was designed for raising and lowering a bucket. No sign of the bucket, though. Well, we've already investigated here, so let's investigate the elephant. What was the name of our trunk-happy friend again?
Isaiah the Asian elephant.
Of course, how could I forget? Not exactly inspired, though, is it? Was Miss Berry having an off day when she came out with it?
Oh my gosh, Mr. Edgeworth! Not in front of the poor elephant herself!
Yes, this is where the circus show stage stood.
Do you think people would be interested in a great thieving show?
I'm sure the police would be very eager to attend. These chairs must have been for the audience.
Wow, I pity you ever had to put them all away.
Really? Why?
You've clearly never had to fold up a bunch of boring chairs before, huh?
Not personally. I've told other people to do it, though.
Come on, Mr. Edgeworth. You gotta roll up your sleeves and help out once in a while.
I'll consider it. Wait, I didn't investigate everything. The well was behind the stage, which means there aren't many people who could have thrown Knight's body down it during the show. This is looking worse and worse for Mr. Saint.
So what do you think all the stuff around the well was used for? I can't see any of the animals needing them for their part of the performance.
Indeed. Nothing immediately strikes me as a likely purpose. We'll have to ask Miss Berry later. I suspect that's about all there is to find for now. Detective Gumshoe should be here soon. Kay, you can power down Mr. Thief now.
Sure thing. Prepare to return to normality.
Investigation complete. Sorry, sir. I came as quick as I could.
Speak of the devil.
Ah, detective. That was indeed impressively quick. You know me, sir. Never did like to keep you waiting.
Thanks for coming all this way too, Regina. No problem. This seemed way more fun than rehearsal, so I ditched them for the day.
It's very much appreciated. All right, detective. Let's get started with Missile. Yes, sir. Hey, Missile, over here, boy. What's the matter? Come on, boy. Come on. What's wrong with him? Looks like he's scared of something, sir. Yeah! Alligator! Guess he's not a fan, sir. Well, I doubt he'll be of much help to us like this. Any other bright ideas, Malzarino? Yes, actually. Miss Berry, would you mind lending us a hand?
Ooh, I'd love to. Just tell me what you need. Do you want me to teach Allie some tricks?
I don't doubt she could do it, but nothing quite like that. I'd simply like an account of what the yard looked like during the show.
I like where this is going. You're thinking of using Little Thief again, am I right?
If you be so kind.
Okay, I plugged in all the data. Firing up the simulation. Here you go. This is what the yard was like during the show.
The time at which the body was purported to have been thrown down the well.
Wow, this is so amazing. It's like magic. No magic here, just sweet, sweet data. Which is why...
The area behind the stage is missing.
Yeah, Regina said she wasn't involved in getting the stage set up. So we don't have any data on what it was like back there.
No data, no simulation, huh? Brutal.
I'm so sorry, you guys. It's all because I let Simeon do everything by himself.
Oh, no. It's all my frilly associate's fault. Objection, Fender.
Anyway, we got a fresh simulation now, but we still have the other data too. I can switch back whenever you want to the recreation of them taking down the stage.
So we can examine the scene both during and after the show, and switch between the two at will. I can switch between recreations by using X to talk with Kay. Now then, let's continue our investigation, shall we? Investigation, Part 2. Don't say a word, sir. I know just what you're looking for. It's written all over your face. It is? This'll may be temporarily out of action, but my fishing rod's good to go whenever you need it. Oh, and if you want to give the metal detector a shot, I have that too. I've never seen him so excited. I'll be sure to let you know if I need either of them, Detective.
A story of forbidden love between a tiger and an elephant. Wish I could have seen it. Wish I could have seen Simeon up there on that stage, too. Ooh, he was wonderful. The way he flew off that stage.
Ah, yes, that scene.
This victory is depicted in a very unique manner, whereby the villain is sent flying from the stage. Having been ejected from the stage in this manner, the villain no longer appears in this performance.
And you're saying the crime took place during that time? Roughly how long would you say Mr. Saint was off stage for, Miss Barry?
Let's see. I guess it was around 15 minutes.
Just as Judge Gavelle said. Isn't it pretty hairy health and safety-wise having an elephant fling a guy off the stage?
Not at all. Isaiah's very gentle.
I'm not sure it changes much if she flings him gently or roughly.
Too gentle, in fact. When we first rehearsed it, she barely nudged him. But by the end, he was flying off that stage. Not because of Isaiah, though. Simeon had figured out some kind of trick, apparently. Isn't that amazing?
A trick? You have any idea what kind of trick?
Who, me? Oh no, it was Simeon's big thing. I wouldn't know where to start.
The basket was empty in the other recreation.
Oh yeah, but it was definitely empty in the photo I took too. Oops, sorry, I made a mistake when I was filling you in earlier.
Oh?
That basket's for holding Isaiah's food, but on the morning of the show, all the apples that were in it had vanished. Poof. I totally forgot to mention it. Sorry.
Disappearing apples. I should make a note of this. Time to piece it together. Items around the well, and Mr. Saint's big moment. The trick Mr. Saint performed for his big scene, could it have something to do with all the items we found by the well? Kay, I'd like to have another look at the equipment around the well from yesterday. Can you have Mr. Thief bring up the recreation from when they were tearing down the stage?
You got it!
Taking another look at these items, could they not have been used for this trick of Mr. Saint's?
Sounds plausible enough. Hey, I could maybe add it to the simulation.
Good idea. Please go and ask Mr. Saint for the details.
Roger that. I'll be right back. I'm back, and he told me exactly how he did it.
Excellent. Well, how does it work?
He said he used the pulley at the top of the well to suspend a heavy weight from a rope, and lower that down into the well. The other end of the rope went through 2 more pulleys, and was tied around his body.
I see. So he used the downward pull of the weight to help him launch himself into the air. But how did he make sure the weight only dropped when he wanted it to?
He used a stake to stop it. That's how.
This Barry didn't seem to know anything about the trick or the contraption he built for it. In which case, I suppose it must have been Mr. Sate himself who pulled out the stake.
That's right. And to do that, he used a second length of rope. He tied it to the stake, and then when he gave it a sharp tug,
the stake was released, and the weight dropped down the well.
it's a great trick. I have to steal it. This one has to go in the Great Thief's repertoire.
It may not be quite that easy. These kinds of circus tricks can require years of practice to master. Simply stealing the idea won't be enough.
Alright, practice it is then.
Well, before you run away to do so, would you mind updating the simulation?
Alright, then we can see how it all worked for ourselves. Okay, I'm switching back to the recreation of the performance. And now, to add in the data. Little Thief should be able to reproduce the trick now.
So this is how Mr. Saint performed his trick.
Simeon's full of surprises, huh? I mean, dropping a weight down a well to help him fly off the stage like that? That's genius.
Indeed, but I imagine he would have needed quite a lot of weight. More than him at the very least. It would have taken some serious pull to lift him into the air like that.
Yeah, and probably a ton of practice.
Logic Part 2. The 30-pound weight with the pulling force.
Wait, doesn't this seem odd to you?
No? You haven't noticed, Detective. There's something strange about the weight we found. Simple. It's only 30 pounds. How heavy it is. The one weight on its own wouldn't be heavy enough. A single 30-pound weight couldn't have lifted Mr. Saint off the ground. Oh yeah! In which case, could there perhaps be some weights missing? Sounds like a job for my Severus secret weapon, sir. Should the need to use the Mirage, I suppose I should speak with him then. May as well do that. Insufficient weight with the metal detector. Detective, I have need of one of your secret weapons. Roger that. The metal detector, if you would be so kind. Ah, jeez. I'm never gonna get to use my fishing rod. So, before we get started, let me run you through how the metal detector works, sir. It's simple enough. It uses this sound and this gauge to tell you how close you are to something made of metal. The closer you get, the more strongly it'll react. When it starts going wild like this, just give me the order to examine the spot where I'm standing. Say, what do we got here? Oh, the fence. Anyway, that's how it all works. You tell me where you want me to look, sir, and I'll get right on it. Sir, I'm picking up something over here. Let's take a little look-see. Huh? Found these little guys in the grass. They're the same as the weight we found by the well. They must be from Mr. Saint's trick. Did someone hide these here on purpose? I count 4 altogether, sir.
They would be more than heavy enough to send them flying.
So somebody hid several of the same weights as the one by the well. But why? And why over here? Yes, nice work, mate. Yeah!
Alligator!
That thing nearly gave me a heart attack. Huh? What's the matter, Detective? It's the metal detector, sir. It's, reacting to the alligator.
What? How?
You're sure it's not responding to the weights we just found? No, sir. I'm sure this is something different, and I'm sure it's coming from the alligator. And she's gone.
Ha! We scared that big snapper good. I don't think that's it, Kay.
Huh?
Then what is it? Allie hasn't been herself lately.
That's the name. Allie, the warden's favorite pet.
She wouldn't even look at the food Warden Lagarde brought her yesterday. She was acting as if, I don't know, as if maybe she'd eaten something that didn't agree with her?
Maybe the metal detector was responding to whatever she ate, sir.
Oh no, what if she had one of the weights?
I highly doubt that even an alligator could swallow a 30-pound lump of iron. So what did the metal detector actually pick up? And why would someone hide those weights? Perhaps I missed something when I looked at the equipment by the well. Kay, could you recreate the scene again?
Coming right up.
Alright, back here. I must scour the scene and inspect anything that catches my attention. Could this be related to the evidence somehow? Yeah. Mr. Saint Trick. What else? Eureka! Think about the two recreations, the one during the performance and the one we're looking at right now. There's a major difference between the two. Namely that one of the ropes is missing.
Oh yeah!
Mr. Saint's trick wouldn't work with only the items we see before us.
So what happened?
Where did the missing rope go? I think one of the pieces of evidence we've collected might tell us exactly that.
Really?
What shows us where the missing rope went? It's either Mr. Knight's body or the autopsy report.
Take that!
That's gonna tell us where the rope went, sir? Indeed.
Okay, so where did it go?
Sir, why are you so quiet all of a sudden?
That wasn't the answer. We definitely saw a rope somewhere.
Yeah, I kinda remember seeing one.
Alright, Mr. Edgeworth, what do we have that'll show where the rope went?
What shows us where the missing rope went? Present the rope.
Take that!
This rope was found beside Knight's body.
Wait, you mean...
Yes, it must have been the other rope used in Mr. Saint's trick.
So you're saying...
Yes, that this rope did indeed have a weight attached to it. But it wasn't any of the iron weights we found. Those were hidden in the bushes and replaced with something else.
What was it, Mr. Edgeworth? Come on, I'm dying here.
Think about what the rope we found in the workshop was related to. Do that and you'll soon figure out the answer. The weight dropped down the well in place of the iron weights was either the body or the report. It could only have been Knight's body that was dropped down the well.
What? Mr. Knight's body was the weight?
Yes, somebody first swapped out the weights used for Mr. Saint's trick. Then Mr. Saint used the contraption to make his exit from the stage. When he left the rope around his body loose, both the rope and Knight's body fell to the bottom of the well. That rope was never used to restrain Knight. It was used to suspend his body halfway down the well. From this, we can easily see why most of the weights were hidden.
So that no one would realize they'd been replaced with the body.
Precisely. We can then further deduce that they were hidden by the killer. Whoa there, gang. Wasn't poor old Bronco stabbed in the neck? Wouldn't there be blood everywhere, including down the well? Oh, the killer thought of that, which is why they used this. What did the killer use to stop Knight's blood from going everywhere? The bloody tarp! This tarp was found with the body. I think it's likely that Knight's corpse was wrapped in it. Ooh, another piece of the puzzle falls into place. It's all coming together now.
But all we're doing is proving that the body did go down the well. Which means we're helping to prove that Simeon was the killer.
No, not quite.
But what about what Judge Gavell said yesterday?
Ah, but if Mr. Saint truly is the killer, why would he need to go to such lengths to commit this crime?
That's true.
Knight's body fell down the well when Mr. Saint used his contraption during the show. Therefore, it reveals nothing about where the real killer actually was, or what they were doing at the time. It's only designed to throw suspicion onto those who were not at the show.
Yeah! I guess we did suspect Mr. Canis right away, huh?
That was the killer's goal, to make us think that the crime took place during the show. In other words, they used the well contraption to construct an alibi. Miss Berry, when exactly did Mr. Saint put his contraption together?
It would have been the day before the show. The night before, actually. Yes, we started getting ready for the show at around 9 p.m. And I think we finished at around midnight?
In which case, the killer must have switched the weights out for the body after that point. Did Canis know about this contraption? Even if he did, he wouldn't have been able to do much with it. And I highly doubt that he taught his dog to suspend bodies halfway down wells. Which means Canis isn't the killer. I agree. Yep, Isaiah with the disappearing apples. Hopefully my health comes back when this investigation's done. The apples in the basket were likely eaten by Isaiah.
Really? That's strange. I made sure to put the cart where her trunk couldn't reach them.
Are you sure about that?
Oh yes, it was still full of apples the night before the show.
Then we must consider the possibility that the cart was moved to somewhere within Isaiah's reach. A large basket full of apples couldn't have been moved by the wind, which likely means somebody moved it for a reason. So before the show had even started, the cart had been moved and its apples eaten. Yes, that seems to be the most probable timeline. Let's update the recreation, Kay.
Will do. I'll add that into the simulation and performance then. Let me just change back to that recreation. Updating based on what Regina told us now. There, all done.
Yup. Now we need to connect the body uses weight with a basket of apples. The basket was moved the night before the circus performance, and we've deduced that the weights were switched out for the body at around the same time.
Hard to chalk that up to coincidence, huh?
Then the next question we should be asking is, why was the cart moved? I think I can hazard a guess. The cart would have been blocking that door, which can only mean
that somebody here to open it. Now let's see what's... Oh, great, it's locked. Let me ask a guard for help. Hey, Mr. Guard!
Yes, miss? What can I do for you? That was fast. Guard, where is this key for this door? Oh, the warden keeps hold of that. I'll go ask her for it. Warden Lagarde is the only one with a key? Meaning, if somebody did open the door, they would have had to get it from her somehow.
Thanks for the help!
Look at all these breakers. They must control the electricity for the whole prison.
So we're thinking somebody got in here the night before the show, right? But why? What were they trying to do?
Well, I doubt they came here by mistake thinking it was a break room. They must have come to tamper with the switches.
Did they turn off the power to something?
Come to think of it, wasn't there something that lost power? What might have lost power had a breaker been flipped? Simple. The security camera footage.
Take that!
There was a 3-hour gap in the security camera footage.
Oh yeah, there was! So somebody flipped the breaker it was connected to?
It seems very likely.
Do you think it was the killer?
It's true that shutting off the cameras would have made things easier for them.
It would!
Which means the killer would have to be someone who had access to the breakers. And it seems only one person has the key. It couldn't be, could it? It has to be.
Alright, little thief, your work here is done.
Investigation complete. Thank you.
First on the scene, the early bird wins the worm.
Good morning, Mr. Winner.
What? You? How'd you get here before me?
Good morning, Mr. Edgeworth. I see you've made an early start.
And I see you've made a late one, Judge Gambit.
This is not my only case. I am a very busy woman. Not all of us enjoy the freedom of a prosecutor relieved of his only current responsibility. Oh, I do apologize. I meant, of course, an associate attorney.
Associate? More like asinine.
We'll see about that.
Did they? No. Eustace, let us begin the investigation of the yard.
Okay, I'll go get some officers to help.
That won't be necessary.
Why not?
We've already finished investigating the yard and won quite the prize in the process.
One? But I'm supposed to be the winner.
Your Honor, I'd like to revisit your theory from yesterday in order to thoroughly disprove it.
I would caution you to choose your words carefully, Mr. Edgeworth. As I am sure you remember, your badge is in my hands.
How could I forget? You've told me several dozen times already. Perhaps you care to try a different threat.
You have been warned repeatedly, yes, and each time my words seem to have fallen on deaf ears. Allow me to make this crystal clear. The committee cannot and will not tolerate insubordination.
The fate of my badge and the whims of the committee are of no concern to me now. The only thing that concerns me is proving Simeon Saint's innocence.
Interesting, and spoken like a true defense attorney. In that case, I shall be equally uncompromising. In the name of the goddess of justice, I will strike down your case without mercy. And when I am done, your career as a prosecutor will be over as well. I hope you do not come to regret this. Argument. Judge Gavel's theory. My theory remains the same as when I related it to you yesterday. Mr. Carcerado did not see Mr. Knight's body when he passed through the tunnel. As such, the body could only have been dropped down the well during the show. We both know the only one who could have dropped the body down there during the show is Mr. Saint.
That's still your assertion. And you can prove it, of course?
Of course she can. Who do you think you're up against?
What Eustace means to say is that we received the final autopsy report just ahead of our arrival.
She really is a very busy woman. Busy looking after baby Winner.
The victim appears to have died the night before the body was discovered. In other words, the night before the show. The cause of death is as stated. It seems the wound is 4 inches deep. Simeon Saint was off stage for a period of 15 minutes. That was plenty of time for him to throw the victim's body down the well.
Judge Gavel hasn't investigated the yard yet, which means, I fear there may be something of a flaw with your theory, Your Honor.
You seem very confident of that. But do you have any evidence to prove it?
Yes, I think I just might. And we know exactly what it is.
My theory remains the same when I related to you yesterday. Mr. Carcerado did not see Mr. Knight's body when he passed through the tunnel. As such, the body could only have been dropped down the well during the show. We both know the only one who could have dropped the body down there during the show is Mr. Saint.
Really? Then how do you explain this trick right here? Sorry, Your Honor, but there's something else you're going to have to take into account. The well in the yard was rigged up to create a certain unique contraption.
A contraption? Go on.
You'll recall that Mr. Saint was sent flying from the stage by the elephant.
I do, just before he was to be absent for some time.
He was only able to fly through the air thanks to a weighted rope he tied around himself, dropping the weighted end down the well above him to complete the trick.
Objection!
Wait, wouldn't that send him flying as soon as he set foot on the stage? It's simple, really. He kept the weight from falling by using a stake to keep the rope in place. With a second rope, he was able to pull the stake free, thereby controlling when the weight was dropped. We have found evidence to suggest that the original weight was replaced with Knight's body. This was done by the real killer in order to create an alibi. The estimated time of death tells us that the murder took place early in the morning. The killer couldn't have tampered with the contraption in the time between the murder and the show.
Objection!
You're saying Mr. Saint himself set this contraption up, right? Well then, who do you think is the number one most likely person to have used it to dispose of a body, Even you must see how this works.
Objection!
If Mr. Saint was the killer, he could have simply done as Judge Gabel theorized, without these extra steps. Miss Beryl,
Yes?
does anyone else know how Mr. Saint's trick works?
Well, let's see. We had to get the prison's approval on what we were going to perform, so I don't think Simeon's the only one who knows.
And there you have it.
Interesting. You've certainly been diligent in your investigation. And yet I fail to comprehend your actions still. Why do you not work to do what is right?
Is what I am doing wrong? If so, who is it that deems it so?
How can you not grasp even that? How can you not see that you are doing wrong at this very moment? You are a prosecutor, and yet you aid the defense. This flies in the face of common sense. You are breaking every rule in the book.
I think only of what is right and just, and act as I see fit in each situation I am confronted with. This is the path I have chosen, and whether you can comprehend that choice is immaterial. But if you mean to stand in my way, I will fight back with all I can bring to bear.
Perhaps the goddess of justice is testing me. Very well. If it is her will that we must fight, then I shall end this once and for all. Listen well, Mr. Edgeworth, for there is another reason why only Mr. Saint can be the killer. Why Saint is the suspect. If the body was moved from the yard to the workshop, then Mr. Knight must have been first brought here to the yard from his cell. The only person who had the opportunity to do this is Simeon Saint, and thus he remains the only plausible suspect. Mr. Saint took a cage with him to Knight's cell. But why would he do that? Why take such an unwieldy object all the way to the holding cells? Yeah, it is pretty sus.
But we've all met Mr. Saint. That's exactly the kind of thing he would do. It's entirely plausible that he took the cage with him out of absent-mindedness and nothing else.
It may be plausible, but it is no more or less plausible than him having helped Mr. Knight to escape.
I need some real solid evidence if I'm going to get her to budge.
If the body was moved from the yard of the workshop, then Mr. Knight must have first been brought here from the yard from his cell. The only person who had the opportunity to do that is Simeon Saint.
You're certain nobody else had the opportunity?
Need I remind you that we are in a prison? The entire facility is marred at all times. Anything out of the ordinary would have been spotted.
But Mr. Saint was under that same scrutiny, was he not?
The Warden had granted the members of the circus troupe special access. As a member of that troupe under the supervision of Miss Berry, he is the only person who is free to wander where he will.
It seems you've forgotten something, Your Honor.
Forget is not a word in my vocabulary, Mr. Edgeworth.
Very well, then recall this fact, if you will. You claim that Mr. Saint is the only person who was free to walk around the prison. But there was a brief period of time on the day in the crime in this prison. A time when it would have been possible for anyone to move through the prison entirely unmonitored. What do I have that shows that there was a period of the day of the crime when the oversight was limited? That answer's obvious. The security camera footage. Mr. Saint is far from the only one who had the opportunity.
Which opportunity are we talking about again?
We'd previously established that the time code on the security footage was off by 3 hours. And from this we can deduce that there must have been a power outage lasting for that length of time, during which anyone could have moved around the prison undetected.
Do you mean to say that our killer intentionally created this 3-hour gap? That it was no simple camera malfunction? Is that even possible?
It was completely possible to create the 3-hour gap, using this. Well, I think we might as well have to present the breakers.
Take that!
Our investigation of the yard turned up something rather interesting. A panel of breakers, one which can be used to cut the power to the security cameras. We also learned that the door to the power room may have been open at around the time of the murder.
What?
Such shame to see one so capable fall so short of the mark. Mr. Edgeworth knows what he's doing. Then how does he explain the lock on the power room door?
Oh yeah, it was kind of locked up tight. And the Warden's the only one with the key.
Those breakers are vital to the prison's infrastructure, so I very much doubt that anyone could have gained access to the power room's key so easily.
Objection!
No, but one person could have.
I beg your pardon?
That person, the killer, had easy access to it, in fact. And what's more, the position here is such that nobody would dare question it.
Objection!
What? There's no one like that. The breaker to the electric fence is in there. They would be questioned in an instant.
There's only one person who meets these criteria. I can hardly believe it myself, but I have to follow where the logic leads. The person who had access to the power room key was Fifi Lagarde.
Take that!
I like her other name better. The real culprit is... Warden Lagarde.
Oh, just look at you. Aren't you the cutest little poochie-woo?
He's not just a pretty face. Missile also has quite the nose for sweet things. It seems he's smelling something very sweet indeed, and it's coming from you.
Oh, darling, you're making me blush. I'm not even wearing perfume.
Then perhaps it is the sweet stench of death.
You're a regular poet, aren't you? I had no idea. But if I didn't know better, I almost think you were calling moi the killer.
That is precisely what I am calling you.
What?
Warden Lagarde is the killer. Mr. Edgeworth, do you realize what you're saying? Oh, such a naughty boy. How could he suspect me? I'm the one in charge around here. It's like we're in a murder mystery, aren't we? And equally far-fetched. This is preposterous.
Hold it!
Sadly, it is not. Although I can hardly believe it myself. But this is where the evidence points, and we must trust in the evidence. This piece of evidence proves that Warden Lagarde is the killer. Mr. Knight's body. Your scent betrays you, Warden, and here is your accuser.
The police dog.
We had him track a sweet scent that was lingering around Knight's body back when it was first found. He now appears to be smelling the same scent, and it's coming from you.
Oh, darling, you're priceless, really you are. Your evidence is a whiff of suspicion. Verity, dear, do put him in his place.
It seems Judge Gavelle may have reached a similar conclusion to myself.
You believe this to be no mere coincidence, Mr. Edgeworth?
I do. After all, she had the key, and the scent found lingering on the body is hers as well. Were it just one or the other, we might be able to brush it off as coincidence. However...
Indeed. Then it seems a conclusion approaches. Perhaps we should hear what the warden has to say for herself.
We should, and when we have, this case will finally be at an end.
You're all being simply awful. Stop looking at me like that. Me, the killer? How could I possibly do such a thing? Testimony. I didn't do it. Verity told me everything she knows about the case, sweetie. The victim died in his cell. So by your logic, I would have had to kill him there. But how am I supposed to have moved the body? Especially as I never went into the prison. I was too busy with work, you see. I was cooped up in my office until right before the show began. Check if you like. You won't find a record anywhere of my having entered or left the prison proper. I haven't the first idea what harebrained theories you little scamps have cooked up, but I'm innocent. There's simply no way I could be the killer.
Give me a break. Missile doesn't lie. Don't make it hard on everyone and just come clean.
Oh dear, I'm afraid you are the one making things difficult. As I just said, I never went into the prison. If you think I'm lying, go and check the records.
She clearly wants us to check those records, which means they won't help us. We'll just have to find another way of getting the truth out of her.
Please, Mr. Edgeworth, stop being a big silly. You made a boo-boo, and you know it.
I'll make it even bigger.
Verity told me everything she knows about the case, sweetie. The victim died in his cell, so by your logic, I would have had to kill him there. But how am I supposed to have moved the body? Especially as I never went into the prison. I was too busy with work, you see. I was cooped up in my office until right before the show began. Check if you like. You won't find a record anywhere of my having entered or left the prison proper.
Sure, maybe you didn't go through the main event or the main entrance to the prison. But what if you took another route?
Oh, come now, sweetie. Surely you don't mean that awful, filthy tunnel they discovered? Why, until yesterday, I had no idea it even existed.
No, you had another way in. I'm certain of it. A route that didn't require going through the main entrance or the tunnel. The route you took went through this location. The yard.
Take that!
Through the fence?
Warden, you took Knight from his cell and brought him to your office, which just happens to be connected to the yard. If you had a way through the fence, then you would have been able to circumvent both the entrance and the tunnel.
A gold star for creativity, darling. And how would I have gotten through that fence, The extremely high fence, topped with razor wire, with thousands of volts of electricity going through it. Yeah! How's she supposed to have gotten through that,
The fence's electricity supply can be cut off from the power room, and only you have the key, Warden. No one but you could have done it.
Utterly ridiculous. The power room is on the prison side of the yard. Warden Lagarde was on the detention center side. How would she even have reached the power room? Exactly, Verity, darling. Well, clever puss. You dug yourself a real hole now.
Aye.
If there is no record of Warden Lagarde having entered the prison proper, then the idea she could have shut off the fence by using the breaker is out of the question.
Arrgh! But there must be some way she could have done it. Take a deep breath, big guy. Lose your cool and you've lost everything.
But if I don't find a solution, she might still wriggle out of this.
Hey, I said take a deep breath, not freak out and completely lose your cool. There's nothing to be gained by banging your head against the same wall, yeah? No matter how you look at it, Warden Lagarde couldn't have done it alone.
Mr. Edgeworth, if you cannot find a... You aren't doing yourself any favors by obstructing justice with your silence.
That was a reflexive objection. But now that I've yelled it, if I don't come up with an answer, it's all over. I have one more thing to add, if you'll permit me.
Something that explains how the warden could have shut off the breaker from the wrong side of the fence?
Yes, because it's not as impossible as it seems. What enabled her to shut off the breaker? An accomplice! She couldn't have done it alone. But what if she wasn't alone? Ooh, now we're talking. Way to flex the old gray matter, kiddo. I believe that Warden Lagarde had an accomplice.
Enough! You disappoint me, Mr. Edgeworth.
What do you mean? Mr. Edgeworth has said nothing wrong.
The inmates of this prison are all issued with security bracelets. The ones that raise the alarm if people go where they're not supposed to. Ah! I see that you have realized your error, and we are, of course, within the prison grounds. Not only are the bracelets worn, but even the guards surveil each other for signs of wrongdoing.
And despite all that, no one noticed Mr. Conserato's escape?
The only ones who are free to roam are the animals, and they most certainly could not have operated the breaker.
No, so our accomplice must be human.
Then who did it, given that it could not have been a prisoner or a guard?
I wouldn't be so quick to rule out either, Your Honor. The fact is, there is one person, someone whose movements weren't restricted. And I have just the evidence to show that who that free-roaming person was. Mr. Sod's bracelet.
This is one of the prisoner's bracelets.
Indeed, a broken bracelet belonging to a certain self-proclaimed model prisoner.
What do you mean? And who is this prisoner?
Frank saw it. Warden Lagarde's favorite inmate. It's strange, isn't it, Warden, that he was able to keep his broken bracelet hidden and wander freely around the prison all the while. That is pretty funky, and I don't mean in a good way. It couldn't be the case that he was permitted some sort of special leeway, could it? Although you are in the habit of giving such leeways to certain others. Bodhihama-Kanis, for example.
Mr. Edgeworth, that is pure speculation.
In that case, why don't we ask Mr. Sard himself? I'm confident he will confirm for us that he and Warden Lagarde were accomplices in this crime. If the two of them had worked together, a certain route into the prison becomes viable. The real route by which Knight was moved from his cell to the prison proper. Recall that there were two big obstacles in her path. First, the security camera outside Knight's cell. Second, the electrified fence in the yard. But she was able to remove both obstacles in one fell swoop by having Mr. Sard shut off the corresponding breakers.
Hold it! Alright, Mr. Edgeworth, you've had your fun.
And? Do you still deny it, Warden Lagarde?
No, darling. You've got me. I admit it. Warden! Tell me this isn't true. Sorry, Verity, honey. I'm afraid it is. Frankie helped me do it.
No way!
You did it, Mr. Edgeworth. You got her.
Nice shooting, cowboy. She won't be wriggling out of this now.
As Mr. Edgeworth said, I had Frankie switch off the breaker. But we didn't kill Knight, did we? No, sweetums. No, we didn't.
What?
Warden, explain yourself. Oh, Verity, dear, I doubt your precious goddess will want to hear my excuses now. She is all merciful. You have but to confess, and you shall be saved. Oh, gosh. All right. I was being threatened. I had no choice but to do as he said. Who's he? Bodhihama-Kanis, that awful assassin. Kanis? How long has it been since that awful man came here to my beautiful prison? I'll never forget the day he arrived.